The mahogany dining table that held 23 years of family memories became the stage for my destruction. Sarah's manicured fingers drummed against the wood as she declared I was a burden who ruined everything. Dad swirled his Merlot with that familiar, satisfied grin. Mom nodded like a bobblehead, her pearl earrings catching the chandelier light I'd paid to install. My brother Marcus smirked from behind his phone. For 3 years, I'd covered 90% of our household expenses while juggling 2 jobs. Without a word, I excused myself, loaded my Honda with essentials, and disappeared into the midnight darkness. By sunrise, when every automatic payment failed and their comfortable life crumbled, 36 panicked voicemails flooded my silenced phone. The aroma of rosemary chicken filled our kitchen as I unpacked groceries after my 12-hour workday. My feet ached from standing through tax season at the accounting firm, followed by 3 evening tutoring sessions. Sarah lounged on the leather sofa, recording herself with a ring light that cast harsh shadows across her face. "Wanda, could you please stop sighing so loudly? I'm trying to create content here," she snapped, adjusting her tripod for the 5th time. I apologized quietly, arranging fresh vegetables in the refrigerator I'd replaced last month when the old one died. Sarah had been living rent-free for 2 years since her fashion boutique failed, claiming she needed time to build her influencer career. Her 10,000 followers seemed impressive until you realized half were purchased bots. Mom called us for dinner at 7 sharp, the same time we'd gathered since childhood. I took my usual seat facing the window where I could watch the sunset paint our suburban street in golden hues. The exhaustion in my bones felt heavier than usual as I passed serving dishes around the table. "Before we eat, I have something important to discuss," Sarah announced, standing dramatically like she was accepting an award. "This family intervention has been a long time coming." My fork hovered midair. Intervention. "Yes, Wanda, we need to talk about how you're affecting this family's dynamic." She pulled out her phone, swiping through notes she'd prepared. "Your constant working makes everyone uncomfortable. Your tired appearance brings down the energy of our home. The way you talk about budgets and bills creates a negative atmosphere." Dad chuckled, cutting into his chicken with precise movements. "Let her speak, Sarah. This needs to be said." "I've been documenting our family life for my followers," Sarah continued, her voice gaining confidence. "Do you know how many comments I get about the exhausted woman in the background of my videos? People think I'm running some kind of shelter for the homeless. It's embarrassing." My throat constricted. "I work 2 jobs to keep this house running." "Nobody asked you to be a martyr," Marcus interjected, not looking up from his game. "Some of us actually know how to enjoy life." Sarah reached into her designer purse, the one she'd bought with my emergency credit card for a networking event, and pulled out a typed document. "We've prepared a family petition. You have 30 days to find alternative living arrangements. We've all signed it." The paper shook in my trembling hands. 4 signatures stared back at me, including a smiley face Dad drew next to his name. The walls I'd painted last summer seemed to close in as I read terms about maintaining distance from family gatherings and social media content. "This is for everyone's benefit," Mom added, patting my hand with false sympathy. "You'll be happier somewhere that appreciates your lifestyle choices." "My lifestyle choices? You mean working to pay for everything?" Sarah's eyes flashed with irritation. "There you go again, always playing the victim. This attitude is exactly why we need space from you." The room spun as I processed their words. 3 years of sacrifice, countless overtime hours, skipped meals to ensure they had enough, and this was my reward. The mahogany table I'd refinished with my own hands became a judge's bench where I'd been sentenced to exile. What I didn't know then was the depth of Sarah's deception. While I sat there feeling my world shatter like dropped china, she had already posted a video to her followers. In it, she tearfully explained how she'd been financially supporting her struggling sister, who refused to find proper work. The donation links in her bio had generated over $3,000 from sympathetic viewers who believed her fabricated story of family sacrifice. The rosemary chicken turned to ash in my mouth as I realized the truth. This wasn't just rejection. It was a calculated betrayal designed to free them from the embarrassment of my existence while profiting from my pain. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 8 times as Sarah scrolled through her phone, apparently finished with destroying my world. I pushed food around my plate, trying to process how my own family could ambush me with such cruelty. Then Marcus cleared his throat, setting down his game controller with unusual purpose. "Since we're being honest here, I should mention I need your room," he said, stretching lazily. "I'm starting a streaming career, and that space has the best lighting. Plus, the closet is perfect for storing my equipment." "You dropped out of college 6 months ago," I said numbly. "You told me you were taking a gap year to find yourself." "I found myself," he grinned. "I'm going to be the next big gaming influencer, but I can't do it properly with you walking through my shots every morning, rushing off to your corporate prison." Mom refilled everyone's wine glass except mine, a subtle exclusion I'd grown accustomed to over the years. "We've actually been discussing this as a family for quite some time, sweetheart. Your presence here has become suffocating." Suffocating. The word tasted bitter. "I buy all the groceries. I pay the utilities. I fixed the roof leak last month with my bonus money." Dad set down his glass with deliberate precision. "And you never let us forget it. Do you always mentioning money, always making us feel small? A real family member would help without keeping score." "I don't keep score." I protested weakly, though the receipts organized in my filing cabinet told a different story. I'd started documenting expenses after Dad borrowed $5,000 for a business venture that never materialized. "The neighbors think you're unemployed." Dad continued swirling his wine thoughtfully. "When they ask about you, I tell them you're between jobs. It's less embarrassing than admitting my daughter thinks she's too good for family time because she's always working." "You tell people I'm unemployed." My voice cracked. "I have 2 jobs. I'm a senior accountant. I tutor kids in math every evening." "Details." He waved dismissively. "The point is, your workaholic nature reflects poorly on our family reputation. The Hendersons think we're struggling financially because you're always dressed like you shop at discount stores." "I shop at discount stores to save money for our expenses." Sarah laughed a tinkling sound that grated my nerves. "See, there you go again with the money talk. This is exactly what we mean. You're obsessed with finances. It's honestly concerning." Mom stood abruptly smoothing her dress. "Marcus, why don't you show Wanda what we found while cleaning?" My younger brother disappeared into the kitchen, returning with a manila folder. He slid it across the table with a smirk. "We thought you might fight the petition, so we prepared backup documentation." Inside the folder lay an eviction notice dated 3 weeks ago. The letterhead was official, the language formal and cold. What stopped my heart was the signature line all 4 of my family members had signed and notarized it at the bank where I had my checking account, the same bank where I'd added Mom as an emergency contact. "You've been planning this for weeks." My voice sounded strange, disconnected from my body. "Months, actually," Sarah admitted without shame. "We started discussing it during the 4th of July barbecue. Remember the one where you showed up late because of work and ruined the family photos with your wrinkled clothes?" I remembered. I'd worked a 16-hour day to finish quarterly reports, then rushed home to find they'd eaten without me. The photos they posted online cropped me out anyway. "But it became urgent last month," Mom explained, sitting back down gracefully. "Aunt Patricia mentioned she saw you at the food court eating alone again. Do you know how that makes us look like we don't feed you properly?" "You don't feed me at all. I buy all the food." "There's that attitude again?" Dad sighed dramatically. "This victim complex is exhausting, Wanda. We're trying to have a civilized conversation about your future." Marcus pulled out his phone, showing me a group chat I'd never seen before. "We have a family planning thread. We vote on household decisions, discuss improvements, coordinate schedules. You were never added because, well, you're never really here anyway." I scrolled through months of messages discussing my problem, their strategies for managing my difficult personality, and calculations of how much space they'd gain once I left. The casual cruelty of their words cut deeper than any knife. They'd even discussed selling my furniture with Sarah, claiming my desk would be perfect for her makeup tutorials. "We're not trying to hurt you," Mom said, though her actions suggested otherwise. "We just think everyone will be happier with some distance. You can focus on your career without feeling obligated to us, and we can finally breathe in our own home. Your home, I pay the mortgage assistance every month because Dad's business failed." Dad's face reddened. "That business was sabotaged by jealous competitors, and I never asked for your help. You insisted on interfering, making me feel like less of a man with your handouts." The conspiracy became crystal clear. They'd rewritten history, painting me as the villain in their story of family dysfunction. Every sacrifice I'd made had been twisted into an attack on their dignity. Every dollar spent became evidence of my controlling nature rather than my love for them. Sarah stood again, clearly enjoying her role as family spokesperson. "We've already started making plans for the space. Marcus needs your room, but we're converting the basement into a content creation studio for me. Mom wants to turn your bathroom into a meditation sanctuary, and Dad's thinking of using your parking spot for his new motorcycle." "What new motorcycle?" "The one I'll buy once we're not spending money on your excessive utility usage," Dad replied smoothly. "Do you know how much the electric bill drops when someone isn't running computers and lights at all hours?" The irony almost made me laugh. My laptop and desk lamp use less electricity than Sarah's ring lights and Marcus's gaming setup combined, but facts had no place at this table anymore. They'd constructed a reality where I was the problem, and nothing would shake that delusion. As I looked around the table at these strangers wearing my family's faces, one final detail caught my eye. On the kitchen counter sat a real estate flyer for luxury condos downtown. The kind of places that required proof of income and stellar credit. The kind of places none of them could afford without me. The conspiracy wasn't just about removing me, it was about maintaining their lifestyle without the embarrassment of my presence. They genuinely believed they could wish away their financial reality by banishing the one person keeping them afloat. The dining room fell silent except for the rhythmic ticking of the grandfather clock. I stood slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor I'd refinished last spring. 4 pairs of eyes watched me with varying degrees of smugness and anticipation, waiting for tears or protests that would validate their narrative of my difficult personality. "I need to use the restroom," I said quietly, my voice steady despite the earthquake in my chest. "Don't take too long," Sarah called out cheerfully. "We're having chocolate souffle for dessert. Mom made it special for tonight." Special for tonight. They'd planned a celebratory dessert for my eviction notice. I walked upstairs, each step measured and calm, though my mind raced through 23 years of memories in this house. The banister still showed scuff marks from Marcus's skateboard phase. The 3rd step creaked the same way it had since I was 7. These details felt suddenly precious and painful. In my room, I closed the door and leaned against it, finally allowing myself 3 deep breaths. Then I moved with quiet efficiency, pulling my emergency duffel from the closet. I'd kept it packed since Dad's 3rd business failure, some instinct warning me that one day I might need to leave quickly. Tonight, that instinct proved correct. I grabbed essential clothing, toiletries, and my laptop. My hands moved automatically, folding and packing, while my mind worked through the logistics. The family was still downstairs, probably discussing renovation plans for my space. Their voices drifted up through the vents, punctuated by occasional laughter. From my desk drawer, I retrieved the folder containing every receipt from the past 3 years. Bank statements, utility bills, mortgage payments, grocery receipts, medical bills I'd covered when Mom's insurance lapsed. The documentation of my financial abuse filled 2 manila envelopes. I'd kept everything initially for tax purposes, but now these papers would serve a different purpose. My phone buzzed with a notification from our banking app, an automatic payment reminder for tomorrow's electricity bill, then another for the internet service, then the water bill. One by one, the notifications lined up like dominoes waiting to fall. I sat at my desk, opening my laptop for what would be the last time in this room. The process took less than an hour. I methodically removed my name from every utility account, canceled all automatic payments, and transferred the remaining balance to my personal savings account at a different bank. Each click felt like cutting an invisible cord that had bound me to this house and these people who saw me as nothing more than a walking ATM. I changed passwords on every streaming service, every subscription, every account they'd been freely using. The premium cable package, the high-speed internet for Marcus's gaming, the meal kit deliveries, Mom pretended she cooked from scratch, Sarah's Adobe Creative Suite for her influencer business. All of it vanished with a few keystrokes. The house deed wasn't in my name, but I'd been paying half the mortgage to prevent foreclosure. I scheduled an email to the mortgage company for 9 a.m. tomorrow, informing them that I would no longer be contributing payments and to direct all future correspondence to Charles Sterling, the primary account holder. I attached 3 years of payment records showing my contributions just for clarity. From my jewelry box, I took only pieces I'd bought myself or inherited from Grandma. The family heirloom necklace Mom had gifted me last Christmas stayed behind along with the watch Dad gave me for graduation. They could pawn those for grocery money. I heard footsteps on the stairs and quickly finished packing. Sarah's voice called through the door, "Wanda, you're missing dessert. Don't be antisocial." "I'll be right down," I responded, zipping my duffel closed. I waited until her footsteps retreated, then opened my window. The old maple tree I'd climbed as a child stood close enough to the house that I could lower my bags to the ground without making noise. Years of sneaking out as a teenager had taught me which branches would hold weight without creaking. With my bags safely on the lawn, I took one last look around my room. The walls still displayed photos from happier times before money troubles and resentment poisoned our family well. I left them hanging there, ghosts of relationships that had died long before tonight's dinner. Downstairs, I could hear them serving dessert. Dad was telling one of his stories about almost closing a big deal, the same fiction he'd been spinning for 5 years. I crept down the back stairs, the ones that led directly to the garage. My Honda Civic sat in its usual spot, reliable and paid off, unlike Dad's leased Mercedes that I'd been covering payments on. I loaded my bags into the trunk, then remembered one crucial detail. The spare key to the house hung on my keychain. I removed it and left it on the workbench along with the garage door opener. Let them figure out their own access moving forward. The garage door would make too much noise, so I put the car in neutral and pushed it backward down the driveway. Our house sat on a slight decline, making it easy to roll silently onto the street. Only when I reached the stop sign did I start the engine, the sound seeming impossibly loud in the quiet neighborhood. As I drove away, I didn't look back at the 2-story colonial where I'd spent my entire life. The rearview mirror reflected only darkness and the faint glow of dining room windows, where my family enjoyed their special dessert, blissfully unaware that their comfortable life would end in approximately 9 hours. I pulled into a Hampton Inn 15 miles away using my personal credit card for the first time in years, without calculating whether the family needed that money for something else. The desk clerk smiled warmly as she handed me a room key, and I realized it was the first genuine kindness I'd experienced all day. In my hotel room, I finally allowed myself to check my phone. 17 messages from the family group chat I'd never been invited to join, but Sarah had accidentally included me in one screenshot. They were dividing up my possessions, with Marcus claiming my smart TV and Mom wanting my kitchen appliances. Dad suggested they could rent out my room for extra income once they cleared out my things. I turned off my phone, set it to Do Not Disturb, and plugged it in across the room. Tomorrow would bring a storm of their own making, but tonight, for the first time in 3 years, I would sleep without worrying about anyone but myself. The hotel bed felt strange but peaceful. No creaking floorboards from Marcus gaming until 4 a.m. No Sarah practicing her intro videos outside my door. No Mom asking for just a small loan until her next yoga retreat payment. No Dad stumbling home from another failed networking event reeking of whiskey and disappointment. Just silence. Beautiful, expensive silence that I could finally afford. The Hampton Inn's blackout curtains worked perfectly, keeping my room in peaceful darkness until my alarm chimed at 7 a.m. For the first time in 3 years, I'd slept 8 uninterrupted hours without anxiety dreams about overdue bills or family emergencies. I stretched luxuriously in the king-sized bed, a simple pleasure I'd denied myself for too long. My phone showed 53 missed calls and 97 unread messages. I scrolled through them while sipping complimentary coffee, watching the timestamps tell a story of escalating panic. The first message came at 5:43 a.m. from Dad. "Very funny, Wanda, turn the power back on." By 6 a.m., the tone had shifted. "Mom, the hot water isn't working. Call the utility company immediately." Marcus at 6:15. "My gaming subscriptions are all canceled. What did you do?" Sarah's messages started at 6:32. My live stream cut off in the middle of my morning routine. "I'm losing followers. This is sabotage." I set my phone aside and enjoyed a proper breakfast in the hotel lobby. Fresh fruit, scrambled eggs, whole wheat toast with real butter. Not the generic cereal I usually grabbed while rushing to work. An elderly couple at the next table smiled and wished me good morning. Normal human kindness felt foreign after years of family criticism. Back in my room, I opened my laptop to check my bank accounts. All the automatic payments had been successfully canceled. The family's various subscriptions would have attempted to renew overnight, finding no valid payment method. I imagined their morning routine collapsing like a house of cards. My phone rang again. This time it was Jessica, my best friend, and the only person who knew about my escape plan. Her laughter bubbled through the speaker before she even said hello. "Girl, your sister is having a complete meltdown on Instagram. She's posting stories about being victimized by family betrayal. The comments are not going her way." "What do you mean?" "People are asking why a successful influencer needs her sister to pay for her internet. Someone did the math on her subscriber count versus her lifestyle. The facade is cracking." I pulled up Sarah's Instagram on my laptop. Her perfectly curated feed now showed a frantic video posted 10 minutes ago. Her ring light was off, casting harsh shadows on her unmade-up face. She looked more human than she had in years. "My family is experiencing a crisis," she said breathlessly into the camera. "My sister, who we've supported for years, has vindictively cut off our utilities out of spite. We're literally sitting in darkness because she can't handle constructive criticism about her life choices." The comments section exploded with questions. "Why can't you pay your own utilities? I thought you said you supported her. This doesn't match what you posted yesterday about her being unemployed." My phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Miss Sterling." "This is Robert Chen from Prosperity Mortgage. I received your email this morning regarding the cessation of your financial contributions to your father's mortgage. I need to inform you that without your payments, the loan is significantly in arrears. We'll be initiating foreclosure proceedings unless the past due amount of $11,700 is received within 5 business days." "I understand. Please direct all communication to Charles Sterling, as he's the sole name on the mortgage." "I see. And you've been making payments of $2,000 monthly for 36 months. "That's correct. I've sent documentation." "Miss Sterling, I feel obligated to inform you that your father hasn't made a payment from his own funds in over 3 years. Your contributions were the only thing preventing foreclosure. Without them—" "I understand the implications. Thank you for clarifying." After ending the call, I sat in stunned silence. Dad had been pocketing his supposed half of the mortgage for 3 years while I struggled to cover what I thought was temporary help. The business failures weren't failures at all. They were lies designed to extract money from his eldest daughter. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Seriously, Wanda, this isn't funny anymore. I had a tournament today and couldn't log in. You're costing me prize money. Turn everything back on now." Then Mom, the grocery delivery was canceled. How are we supposed to eat? This is elder abuse. I'm calling a lawyer. Then Sarah, "You've ruined my career. Brands are pulling out of deals because I couldn't post this morning. I hope you're happy destroying your family's dreams." The irony was suffocating. They'd told me I was a burden less than 12 hours ago, served me eviction papers, and divided up my possessions like vultures. Now they were drowning in the consequences of their cruelty, and somehow I was still the villain in their story. I decided to check out of the hotel and drive to work. My vacation time would start tomorrow, but I needed to tie up some loose ends and inform HR about my situation in case my family tried to contact my employer. As I loaded my car, my phone rang with Dad's ringtone. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. "Wanda, this has gone far enough. I just got off the phone with the mortgage company. They're threatening foreclosure. Is that what you want, to see your family homeless? Your mother is having a panic attack. Sarah can't work without internet. Marcus is devastated. You've made your point. Now fix this mess before it's too late. Call me back immediately or I'll have no choice but to come to your office and discuss this situation with your bosses. Don't test me, young lady." Threats now. The man who hadn't contributed a cent to household expenses in 3 years was threatening my job because his free ride had ended. I saved the voicemail, adding it to my growing documentation file. By the time I reached my office parking lot, the missed calls had climbed to 112. Each family member had cycled through denial, anger, bargaining, and back to anger. Their messages painted a picture of complete chaos. The electricity had been shut off for non-payment, affecting everything from refrigerated food to Sarah's content creation equipment. The internet and cable were gone, leaving Marcus unable to access his gaming world. The water would be next, according to a shut-off notice they'd found taped to the door. Mom's credit cards were maxed out, declining at the grocery store. Dad's Mercedes payment had bounced, triggering a repo notice. The dominoes hadn't just fallen. They'd created an avalanche that buried their delusions under the weight of financial reality. And they still didn't understand. Every message demanded I fix their problems without acknowledging why I'd left or apologizing for their cruelty. As I sat in my car watching normal people head into work without family drama destroying their peace, I realized something profound. The burden they'd accused me of being had actually been the opposite. I wasn't weighing them down. I'd been holding them up, and without me, they were finally experiencing the free fall they'd chosen when they pushed me away. By noon, the family's search for me had escalated into a full-scale manhunt. I sat in my office trying to focus on quarterly reports while my phone vibrated constantly against my desk. My coworker Rachel glanced over with concern as I declined the 40th call of the day. "Everything okay, Wanda? You seem distracted." "Just some family drama, nothing I can't handle." I'd already spoken with HR explaining that my family might attempt to contact the office and asking security to be aware. The HR director, Patricia, had been surprisingly understanding, offering resources for employees dealing with domestic situations. I hadn't thought of my situation as domestic abuse before, but her gentle suggestion made me reconsider. My desk phone rang. The receptionist's voice sounded strained. "Wanda, there's a Charles Sterling here demanding to see you. He's quite agitated. Should I call security?" "Yes, please. I'm not available for visitors today." Through my office window overlooking the lobby, I watched Dad argue with security guards. His face had turned an alarming shade of red arms, waving dramatically as he pointed toward the elevators. Even from 3 floors up, I could see his desperation. The man who'd smiled while signing my eviction notice now looked disheveled and panicked. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, then recognized the area code from Mom's yoga studio. "Your mother collapsed during class. She kept crying about being abandoned. The instructor had to call an ambulance. Are you really going to let your pride kill your mother? Janet from Inner Peace Yoga." I knew Janet. She'd been Mom's enabler for years, lending her money and believing every sob story. I typed back carefully. "Please have the hospital bill her insurance directly. She's covered under Dad's policy." 3 dots appeared immediately. "Your father's insurance was canceled for non-payment. Your mother has no coverage." My hands stilled on the keyboard. I'd been paying Dad's insurance premiums too, adding them to my monthly contributions without question. Another lie. Another theft. How many of my payments had he pocketed while claiming poverty? Jessica called during my lunch break. "You need to see what's happening on social media. Your sister is having a complete breakdown." I pulled up Sarah's Instagram live. She sat in their dark living room using her phone's flashlight for illumination. Her usually perfect makeup was smeared and her hair hung limp around her face. The viewer count showed over 3,000 people watching her unravel in real time. "I've worked so hard to build this platform," she sobbed into the camera, "and my own sister, out of pure jealousy, has destroyed everything. We took her in when nobody else would. We fed her, clothed her, gave her purpose, and this is how she repays our kindness." The comments scrolled rapidly. "Wait, didn't you post yesterday that she was unemployed? Why is your power off if you're successful? This doesn't add up, sis. Girl, pay your own bills. Team Wanda, honestly." Sarah's face crumbled as she read the comments. "You don't understand, she's manipulative. She turned off our utilities knowing I had brand deals depending on daily content. She's trying to ruin me." A verified account with a blue checkmark commented, "This is Stylebox Beauty. We're terminating our partnership effective immediately. This behavior is not aligned with our values." Sarah's scream could probably be heard throughout the neighborhood. She threw her phone and the live stream ended abruptly. Within minutes, the recording was being shared across platforms with captions like, "Influencer meltdown" and "When the scam falls apart." My desk phone rang again. This time it was building security. "Miss Sterling, we've had to escort your father off the premises. He'll be formally trespassed if he returns. Also, your mother is now in the lobby demanding to speak with you." "Is she actually ill or injured?" "She appears to be perfectly healthy, just dramatic. She's telling everyone you're holding her hostage financially. Please have her removed as well. Thank you for your patience with this situation." I turned back to my computer to find an email from Marcus. "Wanda, I know we said some harsh things last night, but family is family. I've lost 3 sponsorship opportunities today because I couldn't stream. My followers are moving to other channels. This is my career you're destroying. I'll apologize if that's what you want. I'll even pay rent once I start making money. Just please turn the internet back on. You're ruining my life over one bad dinner conversation. Your brother who loves you despite everything, Marcus." The manipulation was almost impressive. No acknowledgement of the months of planning the eviction notice or the fact that he'd never contributed a penny while living rent-free for 30 years. Just more demands wrapped in conditional affection. Jessica texted with an update. "Your mom just called me crying. She asked if you're staying with me. I told her I haven't seen you in weeks and that maybe she should have thought about this before serving you eviction papers. She hung up on me." Then another text. "Your dad is now at your old tutoring center demanding they give him your new contact information. The director called me because you listed me as an emergency contact. She's threatening to call the police if he doesn't leave." The tutoring center where I spent my evenings helping struggling students with math, where I'd built relationships with families who appreciated my dedication. Now Dad was there contaminating that space with his entitlement and rage. My phone rang with another unknown number. This time, I let it go to voicemail, then listened. "Wanda, this is Helen Walker from next door. Your family has been knocking on doors asking if anyone has seen you. Your sister offered me $50 for your location. I wanted to warn you that they're getting desperate. Also, I never believed your father's lies about you being unemployed. I've seen you leave for work every morning for years. Stay strong, dear." Even the neighbors had known about Dad's lies. The humiliation of that revelation stung more than I expected. How many people had seen through their charade while I remained blindly loyal? By 3 p.m., the family had expanded their search. Marcus posted on gaming forums asking if anyone knew alternative contact methods for his sister. Mom called every extended family member with increasingly dramatic versions of events. Dad attempted to access my bank accounts, triggering fraud alerts that locked him out completely. But it was Sarah who delivered the most revealing moment. Jessica sent me a recording she'd made of a conversation Sarah didn't know was being documented. "She's always been jealous of me." Sarah's voice slurred slightly, suggesting wine in the afternoon. "I'm pretty popular going places. She's just a boring accountant who thinks paying bills makes her special. We were doing her a favor letting her feel important. Now she's throwing a tantrum because we called her out. When she comes crawling back begging for forgiveness, I'm going to make her grovel. Maybe then she'll appreciate what she had." Jessica's voice responded coolly. "What exactly did she have, Sarah? The privilege of paying for your lifestyle while you treated her like garbage. You wouldn't understand. You're just like her, working your little jobs thinking you're better than everyone. Wanda will be back by tomorrow when she realizes nobody else will tolerate her. Where else would she go? She has no life outside of serving us. We're all she has." The recording clicked off, but those words echoed in my mind. They truly believed I'd return. They'd pushed me out while simultaneously expecting me to come crawling back, wallet open and apology ready. The delusion was breathtaking. As 5 o'clock approached, I shut down my computer and prepared to leave. My supervisor stopped by, having heard about the morning's drama from security. "Wanda, I want you to know that your job is secure regardless of any family interference. Your work here is valued. If you need additional time off or any resources, please don't hesitate to ask." "Thank you. I appreciate that more than you know." I walked to my car feeling something I hadn't experienced in years protected. My workplace valued me. My best friend defended me. Even neighbors saw through my family's lies. The isolation I'd felt wasn't real. It was manufactured by people who needed me to feel worthless so I'd keep paying their bills without question. My phone showed 153 missed calls as I drove to an extended stay hotel on the other side of town. Among the chaos of messages, one stood out. "Miss Sterling, this is Attorney Patterson from Patterson and Associates. Your grandmother's estate has some time-sensitive matters requiring your attention as executor. Please call me at your earliest convenience. I've been trying to reach you through your previous number without success." Grandmother's estate. I'd been named executor 2 years ago, but the family didn't know about the formal reading scheduled for next week. They thought they knew everything about the will. They were wrong about that, just like they'd been wrong about everything else. As I checked into my new temporary home, I realized the family's desperate hunt wasn't really about finding me. It was about finding their meal ticket, their safety net, their scapegoat. Without me to blame and exploit, they'd have to face the reality of their choices. And that terrified them more than any utility shutoff ever could. The law offices of Patterson and Associates occupied the top floor of a historic building, downtown, all marble floors and mahogany panels that whispered of old money and discretion. I arrived 15 minutes early for my 9 a.m. appointment, having barely slept from both anxiety and anticipation. My phone showed 212 missed calls from family, but I'd finally blocked their numbers last night. Attorney Patterson greeted me warmly, his silver hair and kind eyes reminding me of my grandfather. "Miss Sterling, thank you for coming. I apologize for the urgency, but there are matters regarding your grandmother's estate that require immediate attention." He led me to a conference room where documents already lay spread across the polished table. Coffee appeared without my asking, served in delicate china that reminded me of grandmother's Sunday dinners before the family fell apart. "I'll be direct." Patterson began adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. "Your grandmother was a very astute woman. She updated her will 6 months before her passing, adding several specific conditions that dramatically affect the distribution of her assets." I nodded, remembering grandmother's sharp mind even in her final years. She'd built a successful catering business from nothing, turning her cooking skills into an empire that employed dozens. The family had circled like vultures during her illness, suddenly attentive after years of neglect. The estate is valued at approximately $800,000, including the sale of her business investments and properties. Patterson pulled out a sealed envelope. "She left specific instructions that this letter be read only by you and only after certain conditions were met." My hands trembled as I opened the envelope, recognizing grandmother's precise handwriting. "My dearest Wanda, if you're reading this, then my suspicions about your family have proven correct. I've watched for years as they've taken advantage of your generous nature, and I could no longer stand by in death while they continued this abuse in life. The will your family knows about is a decoy. The real distribution comes with conditions they'll never meet. I've required proof of employment, financial responsibility, and contribution to household expenses for anyone to inherit. As my appointed executor, you'll verify these requirements. I know what you've been doing, sweetheart. Mrs. Chen from next door told me about the bills you pay, the sacrifices you make. I kept every receipt you thought you threw away, every bank statement showing your contributions. It's all here, documented and notarized. Your father hasn't worked in 5 years. Your mother hasn't contributed a penny while spending thousands on her spiritual journey. Your siblings are parasites feeding off your success while diminishing your worth. They will receive nothing because they've contributed nothing. Everything passes to you, my dear one, as it should. Use this freedom wisely. Stop lighting yourself on fire to keep others warm. All my love, grandmother. Tears blurred my vision as Attorney Patterson handed me a tissue. She was quite specific in her requirements, he said gently. Each potential beneficiary must provide 5 years of tax returns, employment verification, and bank statements showing household contributions. The deadline was yesterday. Did anyone submit documentation? Patterson's smile was knowing. Your father submitted papers claiming to be CEO of 3 companies. Our investigation revealed all 3 were dissolved years ago for fraud. Your mother claimed her yoga practice as employment but couldn't provide any income documentation. Your siblings didn't even attempt to submit anything. He pulled out another folder, this one significantly thicker. However, your grandmother submitted documentation on your behalf. 3 years of receipts, bank statements, employer verifications, and something else quite interesting. The next document made me gasp. She hired a private investigator 6 months before her death. She wanted proof of what she suspected. The report details how your family has systematically exploited you, including your father, cashing checks meant for household bills and pocketing the money. There's evidence of mail fraud, tax evasion, and financial elder abuse from when they tried to access her accounts. Page after page revealed the depth of deception. Dad had opened credit cards in my name, maxing them out before I discovered and paid them off. Mom had been telling her wealthy yoga friends that I was mentally unstable, and she was my caretaker soliciting sympathy donations. Sarah had been using my social security number for apartment applications, ruining my credit score with broken leases. This is extensive enough for criminal charges, Patterson noted carefully. Your grandmother wanted you to have options. And the inheritance transfers to you immediately. The full $800,000 plus her jewelry collection and the vacation property in Asheville. Your family has been sent formal letters informing them they don't meet the requirements for inheritance. They're welcome to contest, but given this evidence, I thought about the frantic messages from this morning. Dad's voicemail at 6 a.m. The lawyers say we don't get anything. This is your doing. Fix this now. Mom's text. How could you steal from your own family? Sarah's Instagram story already deleted but screenshot by vigilant followers. Finding out your sister manipulated a dying woman into cutting out her own family. Evil exists. There's one more thing, Patterson said, pulling out a final envelope. Your grandmother owned the house your family lives in. She'd been letting them live there rent-free, but ownership was never transferred. It's part of your inheritance now. The room spun slightly. I own their house. Free and clear. Your grandmother paid off the mortgage years ago. Your father's been collecting your mortgage assistance for a loan that doesn't exist. The magnitude of his deception hit like a physical blow. 3 years of $2,000 monthly payments for a non-existent mortgage. $72,000 stolen while I worked myself to exhaustion. And they'd had the audacity to call me a burden. What are my options regarding the house? Patterson leaned back thoughtfully. As owner, you can evict them with proper notice, sell the property, or continue allowing them to live there under whatever terms you set. Market value is approximately $400,000. I thought about their eviction notice to me signed with such callous confidence. The 30 days they'd given me to disappear from the home I'd been paying for. The irony was delicious and devastating. I need time to think. Of course, but I should mention that property taxes are due next month, $5,000. Your father hasn't paid them in 2 years, and the city has begun foreclosure proceedings. You'll need to act quickly if you want to retain the property. Another bill Dad had been ignoring while pocketing my money. I wondered how many more financial bombs were waiting to explode. How long had he planned to ride this sinking ship before abandoning it? As I signed paperwork transferring the assets, my phone buzzed with an email from Jessica. She'd forwarded a screenshot from the neighborhood Facebook group. Sterling family seeking emergency assistance. Utilities disconnected facing eviction elderly parents and young adults in crisis. Any donations appreciated. Contact Charles Sterling. They were begging strangers for money while living in a house they didn't own after banishing the one person who'd kept them afloat. The same neighbors who'd watched them lie about me were now seeing their truth exposed in real time. Patterson handed me certified copies of everything. Your grandmother would be proud. She spoke of you often worried about your generous heart being exploited. Her final gift wasn't just money, Miss Sterling. It was freedom. As I left his office, my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost ignored it, then recognized the area code from the mortgage company. Miss Sterling. This is Robert Chen again. I'm calling to inform you that we've received a rather aggressive call from your father demanding to know why we contacted you. He's claiming identity theft and threatening legal action. Given what you've shared about ceasing payments, I wanted to alert you to his behavior. Thank you, Mr. Chen. My attorney will be in touch regarding the fraudulent mortgage situation. Fraudulent, but there's an active loan on the property. My blood chilled. What do you mean my grandmother owned that house outright? Ma'am, your father took out a home equity loan 18 months ago for $200,000. He's been using your payments to service that debt. Without them... I hung up and immediately called Patterson. The final piece of Dad's con had revealed itself. He'd borrowed against a house he didn't own using forged documents and my payments to maintain the fraud. The house I'd just inherited came with a massive lien I'd known nothing about. Grandmother's words echoed in my mind. Stop lighting yourself on fire to keep others warm. She'd given me the match to light a different kind of fire, one that would illuminate years of deception and burn away the chains they'd wrapped around my life. The attacks began within hours of the inheritance letters being delivered. I'd moved to a different hotel, paid for a month in advance, and hired a security company to monitor my digital footprint after Patterson warned me about potential escalation. The precautions proved necessary as my family unleashed every manipulation tactic in their arsenal. First came Dad's business associates. My LinkedIn inbox flooded with messages from men I'd never met, all with similar scripts about family values and forgiveness. Robert Hutchinson, who'd lost $50,000 in one of Dad's schemes, somehow thought I should feel guilty. Your father speaks highly of your business acumen. He's going through a rough patch and could use family support. Perhaps we could discuss this over coffee. I'm sure we could find a mutually beneficial solution. I forwarded each message to Patterson, who informed me these men were likely promised a cut of my inheritance in exchange for pressuring me. The desperation was palpable, but their ethics were clearly as bankrupt as Dad's businesses. Next came the medical emergency. Jessica called me laughing despite the situation. Girl, your mom just posted on Facebook that she's having emergency heart surgery, posted a photo from the hospital and everything. I pulled up Mom's page. The photo showed her in a hospital bed looking dramatically pale. The comments poured in with prayers and sympathy until someone named Dr. Rodriguez commented, Helen, this is the stock photo from our hospital's website. Also, you were just discharged after refusing to pay for your anxiety attack treatment. Please stop spreading false information. The post disappeared within minutes, but screenshots were already circulating. Mom's reputation in her yoga community, built on spiritual enlightenment and authenticity, crumbled as people realized the depth of her deception. Marcus took a legal approach. A badly written cease and desist letter arrived at my hotel, clearly drafted, using an online template. Dear Sister, this is official notice that you must immediately restore all utilities and financial support to the Sterling family residence. Your actions constitute elder abuse, financial manipulation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. If utilities are not restored within 24 hours, I will be forced to pursue legal action for damages, including but not limited to lost gaming revenue, pain and suffering, and future earning potential. You have been warned legally. Marcus Sterling, Esquire. Patterson actually laughed when I showed him the letter. Esquire, your brother isn't a lawyer. This is fraudulent representation. Would you like me to respond? Please do. The official response from Patterson and Associates sent the family into deeper panic. Marcus received a formal notice about impersonating an attorney, along with documentation of his zero income and financial dependence. He responded by trying to break into my old workplace before security escorted him out. But Sarah's attempts were the most elaborate. She created a GoFundMe titled, Family Destroyed by Vindictive Sister, complete with heavily edited photos and a fictional narrative. My sister Wanda, who we lovingly supported through years of mental health struggles, has stolen our grandmother's inheritance through manipulation. She's left us homeless and without basic utilities. My parents are elderly and suffering. Please help us survive this betrayal. The goal was set at $50,000. Within an hour, the comments section became a battlefield. Jessica, armed with receipts, began posting evidence. Interesting fiction, Sarah. Here's Wanda's bank statement showing she paid your utilities. Here's your eviction notice to her. Here's your Instagram post calling her a burden. Here's documentation that you haven't had a job in 2 years. Other people piled on with their own observations. Didn't you just post about buying a designer bag? Why can't 4 adults pay basic bills? Team Wanda, honestly. GoFundMe shut down the campaign after multiple fraud reports. Sarah pivoted to TikTok, posting crying videos that became unintentional comedy as viewers mocked her obvious manipulation tactics. The hashtag #RunOurBurdenSister started trending with people sharing their own stories of financial abuse by family. Then came the coordinated attack. All 4 family members sent variations of the same message through different channels, clearly rehearsed. We admit we made mistakes. Family therapy has shown us how wrong we were. We're getting help and want to make amends. Can we start over? The therapy claim intrigued me until Jessica investigated. The therapist they claimed to be seeing didn't exist. The office address they provided was a Starbucks. Even their attempts at redemption were built on lies. Patterson called with an update on the house situation. Your father is escalating. He's filed a claim stating you forged your grandmother's will. He's also trying to refinance the fraudulent equity loan before the bank discovers he doesn't own the property. Can he do that? Not successfully. I've already notified the authorities about the fraud, but he's trying to buy time, possibly to liquidate assets and run. I've frozen all accounts connected to the estate and notified border authorities in case he attempts to leave the country. Dad's final attempt was the most pathetic. He sent a registered letter handwritten in his formal script. My dearest daughter, I failed you as a father. The stress of providing for our family broke something inside me. Your mother's medical needs, your siblings' struggles, the weight of maintaining our lifestyle. It all became too much. I never meant for you to carry our burdens. You were just so capable, so strong. I leaned on you when I should have protected you. Can you forgive a broken old man who loves you more than words can express? The house holds all our memories, your first steps, Christmas mornings, birthday parties. Please don't let strangers live in our family home. Whatever our failures, we're still family. Your loving father. Each line was crafted to trigger guilt. The medical needs Mom didn't have, the lifestyle they chose, the memories in a house he'd fraudulently borrowed against, the broken old man who was actively committing fraud as he wrote those words. I drafted my only response to their campaigns, sent through Patterson. To the Sterling family, Your attempts at manipulation through false medical emergencies, legal threats, public defamation, and emotional blackmail have been documented and forwarded to appropriate authorities. The house you occupy belongs to me through legal inheritance. You have 30 days to vacate the same timeline you gave me. Consider it a gift, as I could demand immediate eviction based on the fraudulent loan Charles took against my property. Any further harassment will result in criminal charges. The evidence of financial abuse, mail fraud, identity theft, and elder abuse is comprehensive and damning. I wish you the growth that comes from facing consequences. Wanda Sterling. The response was immediate and volcanic. Dad's voicemail screamed about ungrateful children and promises to destroy me. Mom sent dozens of texts alternating between suicide threats and promises of curses from her yoga guru. Marcus posted my personal information on gaming forums encouraging harassment. Sarah created multiple fake accounts to spam my social media with vitriol. Each action was documented, filed, and forwarded to build the restraining order case. They were so focused on breaking me that they didn't realize they were building my case with every unhinged message. As I sat in my hotel room reviewing the day's chaos with a glass of wine that I could finally afford, I felt something shift. Their manipulation tactics, once so effective at triggering guilt and compliance, now seemed transparent and desperate. The fog of obligation that had clouded my judgment for years finally lifted. They weren't a family grieving the loss of a loved one. They were con artists panicking as their mark slipped away. And for the first time in my life, I was completely comfortable with that truth. The court of public opinion delivered its verdict swiftly and without mercy. What started as Sarah's desperate attempts to control the narrative transformed into a viral case study of entitled family dynamics that captivated social media. I watched the disaster unfold from my hotel room, alternating between horror and vindication as strangers dissected my family's behavior with surgical precision. Jessica had become my unofficial social media manager, keeping me informed while shielding me from direct exposure. She called that Tuesday morning barely containing her excitement. "Wanda, you need to see this. Someone created a TikTok breaking down Sarah's GoFundMe with a forensic accountant's precision. It has 3 million views." The video featured a young woman with spreadsheets visible on her computer screen. "Let's talk about financial abuse and the Tanya Burden sister saga," she began. "I've analyzed 3 years of this influencer's posts and the math isn't mathing." She proceeded to catalog every luxury purchase Sarah had flaunted, every vacation taken, every designer item shown off, contrasting it with claims of poverty and dependence. The creator estimated Sarah had spent at least $60,000 on non-essentials, while claiming her sister left them destitute. Based on the timeline, this family received approximately $7,000 monthly in support from the sister they called a burden. That's $84,000 annually, tax-free, and they had the audacity to serve her eviction papers. The comments section exploded with similar stories. Thousands shared experiences of being the family ATM of siblings who felt entitled to their success, of parents who manipulated through guilt. The hashtag Joe Burden Sister evolved into Dorn Burdens Unite, creating an unexpected support community. Sarah attempted damage control with a response video. Sitting in what appeared to be Mom's yoga room, she spoke tearfully about mental health struggles and family complexity. The performance might have worked if viewers hadn't noticed the designer bags visible in the background, the professional lighting equipment she claimed not to own, and the obvious editing cuts where she'd rehearsed responses. "My truth is being twisted," she insisted. "Yes, Wanda helped with some bills, but we gave her a home, love, and support worth more than money. You can't put a price on family." The response was swift and brutal. A creator named Debbie Destroys Delusions posted a reaction video, "Let's price out that love and support. Shall we market rent for a room $800 monthly? Utilities split 4 ways $150. Groceries for one person $400. Total $1 $350. Wanda paid $7,000 monthly. That love cost her $5,650 in profit. Some business model. But the real devastation came when Sarah's ex-followers began sharing direct messages she'd sent them over the years. Screenshots flooded Twitter, showing Sarah borrowing money from fans, always with promises of repayment once her difficult family situation resolved. The amounts were small individually, but added up to thousands in unpaid loans from people who could barely afford their own bills. Dad's professional reputation crumbled simultaneously. A LinkedIn post from a former business partner gained traction. Watching Charles Sterling claim his daughter financially abused him is rich. This man owes me $30,000 from our Sure Thing investment in 2019. He convinced me his daughter would bail us out if things went south. I've stayed quiet out of respect for Wanda, who paid back several of Charles's victims from her own pocket. But watching him play victim now, the truth needs out. The floodgates opened. Dozens of people shared stories of Dad's failed ventures, his promises of connections that never materialized, his habit of name-dropping his successful daughter in finance to establish credibility. A Facebook group formed called Charles Sterling Owes Me Money, with over 200 members comparing notes. Local news picked up the story when a reporter recognized our family name from Dad's various business filings. The segment aired during prime time. A family conflict has gone viral after leaked documents showed adult children and parents attempting to evict their primary financial provider while simultaneously demanding continued support. The twist: the daughter they called a burden was executor of a substantial inheritance they're now excluded from due to their own actions. They interviewed Mrs. Chen, our longtime neighbor, who didn't hold back. That girl left for work at 6 a.m. and came home after 9 p.m. every day, working 2 jobs to keep those lazy people comfortable. Her father hasn't worked in years but drives a Mercedes. The mother spends all day at yoga spending money they don't have. It's shameful. The country club Dad frequented released a statement after members complained about his presence. Apparently, he'd been telling people I'd stolen the family fortune through elder abuse, soliciting sympathy and loans from wealthy members. The board voted unanimously to revoke his membership when they learned he owed thousands in unpaid dues I'd been covering. Mom's spiritual community turned equally cold. Her yoga studio posted on Instagram, "We value authenticity and truth in our practice. Members who use our sacred space to spread falsehoods and manipulate others for financial gain are not aligned with our values." The subtext was clear. Helen Sterling was no longer welcome. Marcus faced his own reckoning in the gaming community. His Twitch moderators released chat logs showing him begging viewers for donations while claiming family hardship. When confronted about living rent-free while his sister worked multiple jobs, he'd banned anyone who questioned his narrative. His subscriber count plummeted from 5,000 to under 300 in a week. The crescendo came when a local news crew attempted to interview the family at the house. The footage, though brief, became instantly memeable. Dad answered the door in a bathrobe at 2 p.m. looking disheveled. Mom screaming from inside about persecution could be heard clearly. Marcus was visible in the background in his underwear gaming headset still on. Sarah tried to salvage the moment by coming to the door in full makeup, but her practiced smile faltered when the reporter asked, "How do you respond to allegations of financial exploitation?" "No comment," she said, slamming the door, but cameras caught her through the window moments later having a complete meltdown. The story reached Reddit's front page under the title, "Family Discovers Consequences." Internet detectives compiled a comprehensive timeline using social media posts, public records, and the leaked eviction notice. The document, dubbed the Burden Sister Bible, became required reading for anyone following the saga. My personal favorite was a TikTok creator who specialized in reading legal documents dramatically. Her interpretation of the eviction, "Notice my family had served me," complete with costume changes for each family member, garnered 10 million views. "You have 30 days to vacate the premises," she read in a pompous voice meant to represent Dad. "Your negative energy is affecting our chakras," she continued in Mom's character. The performance was devastating in its accuracy. Sarah made one final attempt to control the narrative with a Notes app apology. I've taken time to reflect on my actions and realize I've hurt someone I love. Social media twisted our family dynamic into something ugly. I'm stepping back from influence culture to focus on healing and growth. Please respect our privacy during this difficult time. The response was predictable. Now she wants privacy after putting her sister on blast. Stepping back from influence culture, nobody will work with her anymore. Healing and growth. Looking for a job for the first time in her life. Patterson called with an update. The public pressure is working in our favor. Your father's attempts to refinance the fraudulent loan have been rejected. No institution will touch him now. The house situation should resolve smoothly. As I scrolled through the endless commentary about my family, I felt a strange mix of emotions. The public humiliation was severe but self-inflicted. They'd chosen to make this public to weaponize social media against me. They'd simply never expected the weapon to turn in their hands. A message from an unknown number caught my attention. It was from Elena Rodriguez, one of my former tutoring students. Miss Wanda, I saw everything online. I wanted you to know that you changed my life. I got into MIT because of your help. You always said I wasn't a burden for needing extra support, that investing in others was what family meant. I understand now why you knew that so deeply. Thank you for everything. Tears fell as I read similar messages from other students, co-workers, and community members. While my biological family faced the consequences of their choices, I realized I'd built a chosen family through years of genuine connection and support. The public humiliation my family endured wasn't really about me at all. It was about everyone who'd ever been called a burden for being responsible. Everyone who'd been exploited by those who should have protected them. Everyone who'd been gaslit into believing their worth was measured only by what they could provide. Their fall from grace became a mirror for thousands to see their own toxic dynamics reflected. And in that recognition, perhaps some found the courage to stop being burdens and start being free. The October wind cut through my jacket as I parked across from the house I'd called home for 23 years. Patterson had insisted I accompany the bank representatives and sheriff's deputies for the formal proceedings, though I'd rather have been anywhere else. The familiar blue shutters looked shabby now, paint peeling from neglect I'd been too exhausted to notice while living there. Miss Sterling. Deputy Morrison greeted me with professional courtesy. We'll need you to identify any personal property you wish to retrieve before the bank takes possession. 3 weeks had passed since the 30-day eviction notice I'd served through Patterson. True to form, my family had ignored it, believing their squatters' rights in a house they didn't own would protect them. They were about to learn otherwise. The foreclosure had accelerated once the bank discovered Dad's fraudulent equity loan against a property he didn't own. Criminal charges were pending, but first came the immediate consequence removal from the premises. The movers waited in a truck behind the sheriff's vehicles, ready to pack what the court had determined were my family's actual belongings. They've been informed we're coming, I asked Deputy Morrison. Multiple times. They've refused to answer the door for the past week. We have authorization for forced entry if necessary. I heard the television blaring from the living room, the sound carrying through windows I'd replaced 2 summers ago. They were home just choosing denial as their final strategy. Patterson touched my elbow gently. Remember, you're here only to identify your belongings and authorize the bank's possession. Don't engage with them directly. The deputy knocked forcefully. Sterling family, this is the sheriff's department with a court order for eviction and property seizure. Open the door immediately. Silence except for the TV, then Dad's voice muffled but defiant. We don't recognize your authority. This is our home. Sir, you have 30 seconds before we force entry. 20 seconds later, the lock clicked. Dad appeared in the doorway wearing the same bathrobe from the news footage, though considerably more stained. Behind him, I could see the disaster they'd created in my absence. Trash bags piled in corners, dishes stacked on every surface, the smell of neglect wafting out. Wanda, he spat my name like a curse. Come to gloat over your handiwork. Deputy Morrison stepped between us. "Mr. Sterling, you need to step aside. All occupants have 1 hour to gather personal belongings as outlined in the court order. This is illegal." Mom appeared, her usually perfect hair matted and gray roots showing. "We have rights. My guru says possession is 9/10 of the law." "Ma'am, that's not how property law works," the deputy replied patiently. "The legal owner has requested immediate possession. You're trespassing." The next hour unfolded like a tragedy in slow motion. My family scrambled to pack while movers began removing furniture that belonged to the house. I walked through with a clipboard identifying items that were genuinely theirs versus what came with the property or what I'd purchased. "That's my TV," Marcus protested as movers carried out the 65-inch screen. "Receipt shows I purchased it last Black Friday," I told the deputy, showing documentation from my folder. "Serial number matches." "You gave it to me. I bought it for the family room. It stays with the house." Sarah emerged from her room dragging garbage bags of designer clothes, makeup, and ring lights. The movers had to inform her that the bedroom furniture belonged to the house. Her shriek of rage echoed through the neighborhood. "Where am I supposed to sleep?" "That's no longer my concern," I replied evenly, checking off items on my list. The kitchen revealed the extent of their dissent. Without me maintaining order, they'd devolved into chaos. Rotting food filled the refrigerator I'd cleaned weekly. Grease covered the stove I'd scrubbed after every meal. The dishwasher I'd repaired multiple times had clearly broken, again based on the science experiment growing in the sink. "You did this," Mom hissed, clutching a box of yoga mats. "You destroyed our family." "No, Helen," Patterson interjected calmly. "Your family destroyed itself through fraud, manipulation, and abuse. Miss Sterling simply stopped enabling it." Dad attempted one last power play when deputies found his home office locked. "Those are confidential business documents. You have no right." "The court order covers all areas of the house," Deputy Morrison replied. "Open it voluntarily or we'll break the lock." Dad complied with shaking hands. Inside, we found exactly what Patterson had suspected: boxes of documents related to fraudulent business dealings, fake contracts, and most damning, a detailed journal of his plans to extract money from my inheritance. "We'll be taking these as evidence," another officer informed him. The car situation provided the day's most dramatic moment. Dad's Mercedes, already tagged for repossession, sat in the garage next to Mom's Lexus and Sarah's BMW, all leased or financed under terms they couldn't meet without my payments. "You can't take our cars," Sarah wailed. "How will I work?" "What work?" I asked before I could stop myself. "You haven't had a job in 2 years." "My influencer career." "The one with zero income and negative reputation." The words felt like weapons, but I was tired of lies. Marcus emerged from the basement with his gaming setup, thousands of dollars in equipment I'd gifted him over the years. He loaded it into Mom's Lexus until the repo agent informed him the car wasn't leaving. "Then how do I move my stuff?" "That's not our problem," the agent replied, already attaching the tow hook. By noon, the family stood on the lawn surrounded by garbage bags and boxes, their entire lives reduced to what they could carry. The house stood empty behind them, locks already changed by the bank. Neighbors gathered on porches and sidewalks, some filming, others just staring at the family who'd lorded their false success over everyone. Mrs. Chen approached me quietly. "Your grandmother would be proud. She told me once that enabling isn't love, it's comfortable cruelty. You stopped being comfortable." Dad made one final scene as the reality hit. "Where are we supposed to go? We have nothing." "You have each other," I replied. "Isn't that worth more than money? That's what you told me when you served my eviction notice." "This is different. We're family." "No," I said firmly. "Family doesn't treat each other the way you treated me. Family doesn't steal, lie, manipulate, and destroy. You're just people who share DNA and a talent for exploitation." Helen's sister arrived in a minivan, disgust evident as she surveyed the wreckage. "I have room in my basement. 1 month only, and you'll pay rent." "With what money?" Mom wailed. "Get jobs like everyone else," her sister snapped. "And Charles, if you try any of your schemes in my home, you'll be on the street that night." As they loaded their possessions into the van, I noticed what was missing. No photos of family memories, no sentimental items, nothing that suggested love or connection. Just material goods and electronics, the things they'd valued more than relationships. Sarah posted one last Instagram story from her phone. "Lost everything today. Remember that family can be your biggest enemy. Trust no one." The comments roasted her immediately, but she'd lost too many followers to trend. Patterson and I did a final walkthrough. The house felt lighter, somehow freed from the toxic energy that had poisoned its walls. I wouldn't live here again. Too many painful memories embedded in every room. But cleaned and staged, it would make someone else a lovely home. "The bank will handle the sale," Patterson explained. "After settling the fraudulent loan and fees, you should clear about $200,000. Combined with your inheritance, you're financially secure." Financially secure. The phrase felt foreign after years of constant anxiety about money. I could breathe without calculating the cost of air. As we locked up, I saw Marcus helping Dad into the van. For a moment, my brother looked directly at me. No apology, no recognition of wrong, just hollow resentment. They'd learned nothing. The text came that evening as I settled into my extended stay hotel with Chinese takeout I didn't have to share. From Mom's number, "The basement has rats. Sarah's allergic. This is all your fault." I deleted it without responding and blocked the number. Their problems were no longer my problems. Their crises no longer my emergencies. The house of cards hadn't just fallen. It had been scattered to the wind. And for the first time in my life, I felt no obligation to help rebuild it. They'd made their choices. Now they could live with them, just as they'd forced me to live with mine. The fortune they'd expected to inherit through manipulation had slipped through their fingers like sand. The house they'd taken for granted was gone. The lifestyle they'd maintained through my labor had evaporated. And somewhere in that complete destruction lay the seed of potential redemption, if they chose to water it with accountability instead of drowning it in blame. But that was their journey now. Mine led elsewhere toward a future where being called a burden was a badge of honor I'd no longer wear. The morning sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows in my new townhouse, casting golden patterns across hardwood floors I'd chosen myself. 6 months had passed since the eviction, and I barely recognized the woman reflected in my bathroom mirror. The dark circles had faded, the stress lines softened, and for the first time in years, my smile reached my eyes. "Good morning, beautiful." I told my reflection a daily affirmation my therapist had suggested. Dr. Martinez had been instrumental in helping me understand that financial abuse leaves psychological scars as deep as any physical violence. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder: staff meeting at 9 a.m. My staff. The word still felt surreal as I dressed in clothes, bought without calculating whether my family needed that money more. The burgundy blazer fit perfectly purchased from a boutique instead of a discount rack. The Sterling Educational Center occupied a renovated Victorian building in the Arts District, its cheerful yellow paint and welcoming entrance a stark contrast to the fortress-like house I'd fled. I'd purchased it at a bankruptcy auction using grandmother's inheritance to transform my tutoring side job into a thriving business that already employed 12 people. Morning Wanda. Jasmine, my receptionist, greeted me with genuine warmth. A single mother of twins, she'd been working 3 minimum wage jobs when I hired her at double the market rate with full benefits. "Your 8:30 is here. Maria Santos about the scholarship program." The scholarship program, my proudest achievement funded by the earnings from the house sale. Young women escaping toxic family situations could receive free tutoring, college prep, and mentorship. We'd already helped 6 students gain admission to universities with full rides. Maria sat nervously in the conference room, reminding me of myself at her age. Brilliant, but beaten down by family who saw her success as a threat rather than celebration. Her story echoed mine, working multiple jobs to support parents who called her selfish for wanting college. They said if I loved them, I'd stay home and help with bills. Maria explained, tears threatening. That family comes before dreams. Family that loves you wants you to succeed, I replied gently. Real love celebrates your growth, not stunts it. Let's talk about your SAT prep needs. An hour later, Maria left with a full scholarship study materials and, most importantly, validation that her dreams mattered. Watching her transformation from defeated to determined filled the hollow space where family approval once lived. The staff meeting buzzed with energy as we planned the summer programs. 12 employees who'd become like family through shared purpose rather than shared blood. Chen Liu, our math specialist, had fled her own controlling parents. James Thompson, our English tutor, understood dysfunctional family dynamics from years of therapy. Each brought expertise and empathy born from experience. I propose we add a financial literacy component, suggested Deanna, our newest hire. So many of these kids will be first-generation college students managing money without guidance. Excellent idea. I agreed, remembering my own fumbling with budgets while supporting 4 adults. Include lessons on identifying financial abuse and setting boundaries. After the meeting, I walked through the building with pride. The basement I'd converted into a computer lab hummed with activity. The library smelled of fresh paint and new books. The meditation room, Mom would have been appalled, provided quiet space for students overwhelmed by family pressure. My office phone rang with a familiar number. Jessica's excitement bubbled through immediately. Turn on Channel 7, right now. The news segment featured our center's success stories. 3 former students spoke eloquently about escaping poverty and abuse through education. The reporter praised our unique approach to supporting the whole student, not just their grades. The Sterling Educational Center has become a beacon for young people trapped in difficult family situations, the reporter concluded. Founder Wanda Sterling transformed her own painful experience into purpose, creating opportunities for others to break free. My email inbox filled with inquiries from potential donors and students, a foundation interested in replicating our model nationally, a tech company wanting to sponsor our computer lab, success building upon success, each opportunity expanding our ability to help. Lunchtime brought an unexpected visitor. Thomas Patterson waited in the lobby, his smile warm with approval. I wanted to see what you've built. Your grandmother would be overjoyed. I gave him the tour, watching his eyes light up at our programs and facilities. In the meditation room, he paused thoughtfully. This building, it's the old Sterling family home, isn't it? The one from the foreclosure. I nodded. I bought it anonymously at auction. Seemed fitting to transform a place of pain into one of healing. Poetic justice, he mused. They lived here, taking from you. Now you use it to give to others. Your grandmother had a similar philosophy. Transform poison into medicine. We talked over coffee about expansion plans. Patterson's firm wanted to provide pro bono legal services for students dealing with family financial abuse. Another piece falling into place, building a network of support I desperately needed but never found. That afternoon, I interviewed candidates for our new college counselor position. One resume stopped me cold. Sarah Sterling. She's actually qualified, Chen Liu noted, reviewing the application. Master's in communications experience with social media marketing. Her cover letter seems genuine. I set the resume aside. Some bridges once burned couldn't be rebuilt with good intentions and desperate need. The center served students escaping toxic family dynamics. Hiring someone who'd perpetuated those dynamics would betray everything we stood for. Evening found me at a fundraising gala for women entrepreneurs. 6 months ago, I'd have been serving these people food at my second job. Now I mingled as an equal, discussing business strategies and social impact with CEOs and philanthropists. Wanda Sterling. An elegant woman approached. I'm Patricia Holbrook from the Holbrook Foundation. Your story has inspired our board. We'd like to discuss a $1 million grant for your scholarship program. The number made me dizzy. $1 million. More than I'd given my family over 3 years now, offered freely for worthy purposes. I managed professional composure while my inner child screamed with joy. "That would transform hundreds of lives," I replied steadily. "When can we meet?" The drive home took me past familiar landmarks: the grocery store where Mom's credit card first declined, the bank where I'd discovered Dad's fraud, the yoga studio that banned her for dishonesty. Each building marked a milestone in my journey from enabler to entrepreneur. My townhouse welcomed me with warmth and peace. No one waited to demand money or berate my choices. No one guilt-tripped me for working late or spending on myself. The silence that once seemed lonely now felt like freedom. I poured a glass of wine, good wine, not the cheap stuff I used to buy while Dad drank imported whiskey, and reviewed the day's accomplishments. 23 students tutored, 3 scholarships awarded, 2 new employees hired, 1 major grant secured. The doorbell interrupted my reflection. Through the peephole, I saw a young woman holding a gift basket. Opening cautiously, I recognized her from social media, one of Sarah's former followers. "Miss Sterling, I'm Ashley Chen. I wanted to thank you personally." She offered the basket filled with teas and chocolates. "Your story gave me courage to leave my own toxic family. I start nursing school next month, fully funded. You showed me it was possible." We talked briefly on my doorstep, another soul freed by example. After she left, I added her card to my growing collection of lives touched by refusing to remain a burden. My laptop chimed with an email from Maria Santos. "Thank you for believing in me. My parents are angry, but I'm not backing down. College here, I come." Another phoenix rising from ashes of family dysfunction. Another young woman choosing her future over familial manipulation. Another victory in the quiet revolution I'd accidentally started. As midnight approached, I prepared for bed in my peaceful sanctuary. No gaming sounds through walls, no dramatic sighs from someone suffering in luxury, no knocks demanding money for manufactured emergencies. Just me building something meaningful from the ruins of what I'd escaped. The burden they'd accused me of being had transformed into a blessing for dozens of young people facing similar struggles. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to transform pain into purpose. But tonight I slept soundly in sheets I'd chosen, in a bed I'd bought, in a home I owned, living a life I'd built. The phoenix had risen, and she soared on wings of her own making. The December cold bit through worn jackets as the Sterling family waited for the bus that would take them to their various minimum wage jobs. 6 months of reality had carved harsh lines into faces once soft with privilege. The basement apartment they shared in Helen's sister's house smelled of mildew and broken dreams, a far cry from the comfortable home they'd lost through their own cruelty. Charles Sterling, former entrepreneur and master manipulator, adjusted the security guard uniform that never fit quite right. The night shift at a warehouse paid $11 an hour, barely covering his share of rent and the court-ordered restitution payments. His Mercedes dreams had devolved into hoping the bus arrived on time so his supervisor wouldn't dock his pay again. "My feet are killing me." Helen whimpered, her designer shoes long soled to make rent, replaced with discount store sneakers that offered no support for 8-hour shifts, standing at a grocery register. The yoga mat she clutched was her last remnant of better days, though she rarely had energy for practice after work. Marcus emerged from the basement pizza delivery bag in hand game controller calluses, replaced by blisters from actual labor. 30 years old and delivering food to teenagers who tipped poorly and recognized him from his failed streaming career. The gaming setup he'd saved was useless without internet he couldn't afford. "At least you get tips," Sarah muttered, tying her hair back for another shift cleaning offices. Her manicured nails were broken memories, her influencer wardrobe reduced to black pants and company-issued polo shirts. She cleaned toilets in buildings where she once attended parties, invisible to people who'd followed her social media fantasy. The bus arrived late, packed with other workers struggling through the gig economy. Charles stood gripping the rail with hands that once signed fraudulent contracts, now checking warehouse inventory. A coworker recognized him from the news coverage and snickered, but Charles had learned to swallow pride along with his coffee for dinner meals. Helen's shift at Megamart Groceries started at 6 a.m. She'd been written up twice for slowness, her body rebelling against physical labor it had never known, scanning items and bagging groceries while forcing smiles at customers who treated her like furniture tested every ounce of former entitlement. Paper or plastic? She asked mechanically the 100th time that shift. The customer, a woman from her old yoga studio, did a double take. Helen Sterling. Oh my goodness, I didn't recognize you. The woman's shock morphed into uncomfortable pity. I heard about everything. How are you managing? Fine. Helen lied through gritted teeth, bagging organic produce she could no longer afford. Will that be cash or card? The encounter spread through her former social circle within hours. Helen Sterling, who'd preached prosperity manifestation while her daughter paid her bills, now worked minimum wage and looked every day of her 62 years. Marcus's pizza route took him through his old neighborhood where gaming friends had gathered for tournaments he'd hosted. Delivering to a party at Brandon's house, he rang the doorbell he'd walked through freely just months ago. No way Marcus Brandon answered, visibly uncomfortable. Dude, I didn't know you were working. Yeah, well. Marcus handed over the pizzas, avoiding eye contact with former friends visible inside. That's $32.50. Keep the change, Brandon said, handing him $35. The $2.50 tip felt like charity. Marcus had once dropped hundreds on gaming accessories without thought. Hey, are you still gaming at all? Brandon asked awkwardly. No internet, Marcus admitted. Saving up for a connection. That sucks, man. Well, thanks for the pizza. The door closed on another piece of his former life. Marcus drove away in the beaten Honda Civic. The pizza shop provided nothing like the sports car he'd fantasized about while mooching off Wanda. Sarah's overnight shift at Corporate Clean Services started at 10 p.m. She pushed her cart through empty offices' earbuds, playing motivation podcasts that rang hollow when you're scrubbing coffee stains from executive carpets. The building housed several companies that had sponsored her content before the scandal. In the marketing department of Style Box Beauty, she emptied trash cans filled with PR packages, the same products she'd unboxed for thousands of followers. A mood board on the wall featured their new influencer partnerships. Sarah wasn't on it. Would never be on it again. Excuse me, are you supposed to be here? A late working executive questioned her presence. Corporate Clean Services. Sarah showed her badge. Just doing my job. Oh, well, make sure you lock up when you're done. The executive dismissed her, returning to work worth 10 times Sarah's hourly wage. The night dragged endlessly. Toilet after toilet, floor after floor, building after building. Sarah's back screamed from bending her hands, cracked from cleaning chemicals despite gloves. She understood now why Wanda had always looked exhausted. This was only one job. Wanda had worked too while carrying their entire household. Charles's warehouse shift involved unloading trucks in the freezing cold. At 58, his body protested every box lifted every hour standing on concrete. His supervisor, half his age, showed no patience for the slower pace of aging bodies. Sterling, those pallets won't move themselves. Pick up the pace or pick up your final check. Yes, sir. Charles responded, swallowing pride that once convinced investors he was CEO material. His elaborate schemes seemed pathetic, now viewed from the bottom of capitalism's ladder. During his 15-minute break, Charles huddled in the break room with other workers eating a bologna sandwich that was breakfast, lunch, and dinner combined. The financial reality Wanda had navigated while supporting them felt crushing when experienced firsthand. Heard you used to run businesses, a coworker mentioned. What happened? Bad luck. Charles lied automatically, then caught himself. No, bad choices. My own bad choices. The admission surprised him. 6 months of consequences had begun cracking the delusion that blamed everyone else for his failures. Each paycheck that barely covered survival taught lessons his daughter's generosity had prevented him from learning. Helen's feet gave out during hour 6 of her shift. She leaned against her register, fighting tears as her supervisor approached with the expression that meant another write-up. "Helen, you have a line of customers. This is your final warning about productivity. Next time you're terminated." "I understand," Helen whispered, forcing herself upright. The spiritual enlightenment she'd preached while Wanda funded her lifestyle felt like mockery now. There was no transcendence in retail hell, only endurance. Marcus delivered his last pizza at 2 a.m. to college students who didn't tip at all. The gas gauge hovered near empty, but payday wasn't until Friday. He'd learned to coast downhill and avoid accelerating to stretch every gallon. Returning the shop car, he waited in the cold for the night bus. His phone, downgraded to a basic model, showed 3 a.m., 4 hours until his warehouse shift started. Sleep would happen on the bus if he was lucky. Sarah finished her buildings at 5 a.m., body aching in places she hadn't known existed. The motivation podcasts had given way to silence, too exhausted for false hope. She understood now why Wanda had fallen asleep at family dinners. Exhaustion this deep settled into your bones. The family reconvened in the basement apartment at various times, too tired for the arguments that once filled their days. They moved around each other like ghosts, heating ramen noodles and collapsing into beds that weren't really beds, just mattresses on the floor. "I can't do this anymore." Helen broke the silence one evening. "My body is breaking down." "Welcome to the real world," Charles replied without sympathy. His own aches had taught him that bodies weren't meant for manual labor after decades of soft living. "Maybe we could ask Wanda," Marcus started. "No." Sarah cut him off. "She's done with us. Did you see the news about her education center? She's helping strangers while we're dying here." "We're not dying," Charles corrected. "We're living, just not the way we wanted." The truth hung heavy between them. They'd scorned Wanda for working, constantly called her a burden for being tired, evicted her for the crime of mentioning bills. Now they lived her life multiplied by 4, and the weight was crushing. Helen's sister knocked on the basement door. "Rent's due in 3 days. Don't even think about being late." They pooled their meager earnings, counting wrinkled bills and change. Still $40 short with no savings to bridge the gap. The same shortage Wanda had covered without complaint countless times. "I'll donate plasma," Marcus offered quietly. "That's $50. "I'll pawn my yoga mat," Helen added, clutching the last symbol of her former identity. They'd survived 6 months through such sacrifices, selling everything valuable, donating blood, taking extra shifts that broke their bodies further. The hustle Wanda had perfected, they now fumbled through with none of her grace. As they prepared for another day of minimum wage survival, none mentioned the warm house they'd lost, the comfortable life they'd thrown away, or the daughter they'd driven off. Those topics hurt worse than their physical exhaustion. The rock bottom they'd hit wasn't dramatic. It was mundane, grinding poverty that millions endured while they'd lived in delusion. But in that shared struggle, something shifted. The family who'd united to exile Wanda now united in understanding exactly what they'd lost. Not just money or comfort, but the person who'd loved them enough to carry them until they demanded she stop. The burden she'd been accused of being was the only thing that had kept them from this fate. And now they carried their own weight, finally feeling every ounce. The letter arrived at my office on a Thursday morning in March, exactly 1 year after that horrible dinner. Chen Lu handed it to me with raised eyebrows, recognizing the return address. "It's from them. Want me to shred it?" "No," I said after a pause. "I'll read it." My hands remained steady as I opened the envelope, though my heart rate quickened. The paper inside was simple notebook paper, not the formal stationery Dad once used for his business schemes. 4 different handwriting styles covered both sides, each family member contributing their portion. I settled into my office chair, afternoon sunlight streaming through windows that overlooked the courtyard where students gathered. Their laughter drifted up young people free to pursue dreams without family guilt. Taking a deep breath, I began reading. Dear Wanda, today marks 1 year since we destroyed our family with our cruelty. We chose this date deliberately needing you to know we remember exactly when we broke everything good in our lives. This letter isn't about asking for money. We know that door is forever closed as it should be. This isn't about seeking restoration of our old life. We understand now that life was built on your suffering. This is simply 4 broken people attempting to acknowledge the harm we caused and the person we lost through our own selfishness. Dad's section. Wanda, I failed you completely as a father. A real man provides for his family, protects his children, and models integrity. I did none of those things. Instead, I stole from you, lied about you, and ultimately tried to destroy you when you stopped enabling my failures. The warehouse job I mocked you for considering has taught me what real work means. Every night lifting boxes until my body screams, I think about how you did this, and tutoring while I sat home fabricating business plans. The security job I work weekends has me guarding empty buildings, plenty of time to reflect on the empire of lies I built. I've joined Gamblers Anonymous, not because the court mandated it, but because I finally admitted the business ventures were just gambling with your money. 3 months sober from the delusion that the next scheme would solve everything. It won't bring back the years I stole from you, but at least I'm not creating new victims. Your mother has the next part. Mom's section. My darling daughter, though I've forfeited the right to call you that. The grocery store where I work is where you shopped for us every week. I see now what $90 actually buys, how carefully you must have planned to feed 4 adults. My feet ache constantly, and I remember you coming home limping but still cooking dinner. How did you do it? How did you not hate us sooner? My yoga practice taught about karma, but I only understood it intellectually until living it physically. Every dismissive customer, every degrading task, every exhausted moment is karma for how I treated you. The universe is just even when mothers are not. I've started attending a support group for parents who've lost children through their own actions, not death, but something perhaps worse, justified abandonment. We share stories of entitlement and neglect, slowly accepting that our children didn't leave us. We drove them away. Sarah wants to share next. Sarah's section. Wanda. I clean offices now. Last week I cleaned yours. You weren't there, but I saw your degrees on the wall, the photos of students you've helped, the awards from the community. The life you've built without us is beautiful. I sobbed into my mop bucket, realizing I called someone burden who was actually blessing. The influencer life I thought I deserved was shallow fantasy. This real life of work and consequences has taught me that. I watch your education center's social media from a fake account. I know you blocked me and see you helping young women escape families like ours. The knife twists deeper, knowing I'm the cautionary tale, not the inspiration. I've been in therapy, real therapy, not Instagram motivation, diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. The label stings but fits. I'm trying to change to become someone worth being, not for reconciliation, but for my own soul. I need you to know that you deserved a sister who celebrated your success, not one who resented it. Marcus will finish. Marcus's section. Hey Wanda, 30 years old and I'm finally growing up. Funny how poverty does that. The gaming world I escaped into was just that. Escape from responsibility you carried for all of us. I deliver pizzas to people younger than me who have their lives together because they didn't have you to enable their laziness. I think about that dinner a lot. How I sat there smirking while you were being attacked. How I already planned to take your room before the words finished leaving Sarah's mouth. What kind of brother does that, the worthless kind? I volunteer now at the community center teaching kids basic computer skills. It's not much, but it's honest. One kid reminds me of you. Quiet, hardworking, overlooked. I make sure he's not. It doesn't undo my failures as your brother, but maybe it prevents another kid from becoming me. All of us. We don't ask for forgiveness because some things are unforgivable. We don't ask for contact because we haven't earned that right. We definitely don't ask for money because that would prove we've learned nothing. We ask only that you know this. We remember. We understand. We regret. And despite having no right to the emotion, we love the daughter and sister we were too blind to treasure when we had her. The Sterling family you deserved, not the one you got. I set the letter down with trembling hands. Outside, students practiced presentation skills in the courtyard, their confident voices carrying through spring air. These young people who'd trusted me with their stories of family pain and survival. I couldn't betray that trust by reopening doors better left closed. But the letter felt different from their previous manipulations. The self-awareness seemed genuine, the accountability real. Chen Lu knocked softly, bringing tea and tissues I hadn't realized I needed. "You okay, boss?" "Yeah, just processing." I showed her the letter. "What do you think?" She read it carefully, her own family trauma making her an expert in toxic dynamics. This feels real, but real doesn't always mean safe to engage with. Dr. Martinez said something similar during my emergency therapy session that afternoon. The letter shows growth, but growth doesn't entitle them to access. You get to decide if and when you're ready for any contact. I spent the week considering my response. The old Wanda would have rushed back, wallet open and arms wide. The bitter Wanda would have burned the letter and laughed. But the healing Wanda I'd become needed something more nuanced. The following Thursday, I had Patterson send a certified response. To the Sterling family, your letter has been received and read. The acknowledgement of harm and personal growth is noted. However, healing happens on separate timelines, and mine requires continued distance. I'm glad you're working and growing. That process deserves to continue without the complication of our shared past. Your journey toward becoming better people should be for yourselves, not for the hope of reconciliation. If individual therapy and personal development continue, perhaps someday communication might be possible. That day is not today. Please respect this boundary as you learn to respect others. I wish you well in your journey toward becoming the people you reference in your letter, the family I deserved. May you become that family for each other, if not for me. Wanda Sterling. I included information about free therapy resources and job training programs, but no personal details about my life. Boundaries could coexist with compassion distance, with well wishes. Patterson delivered their response a week later. They cried, he reported. But it wasn't manipulative crying. More like relief. Charles said, "At least now they know you're okay." Helen asked me to thank you for the resource list. Sarah wanted you to know she's staying in therapy. Marcus just nodded. Any demands, guilt trips, escalation? No. They asked if they could write again in a year, just to update you on their progress. I said that would be your decision to make then. I filed their letter with other important documents, not in anger, but in acknowledgement. They'd finally seen me as a person rather than a resource. Too late for our relationship, perhaps, but not too late for their growth. That evening, I taught my financial literacy class to scholarship students. We discussed family dynamics and money, how love and manipulation often intertwined in toxic ways. I shared my story as I always did, watching recognition dawn on young faces. "How do you forgive them?" asked Destiny, whose own family situation mirrored mine. "Forgiveness isn't required for healing," I replied carefully. "Sometimes the best gift you can give toxic family is distance to grow without you, and the best gift you give yourself is freedom to thrive without them." But what if they change, really change? I thought about the letter, about 4 broken people finally understanding the weight they'd forced me to carry. Then they'll become better people, and you'll have become who you were meant to be without their interference. Both can be victories that never intersect. The students absorbed this wisdom, some nodding, others wrestling with their own family complications. I'd learned that healing wasn't a destination, but a journey, one that sometimes meant traveling parallel to those who'd hurt us without ever converging paths again. As I locked up the center that night, I felt a strange peace. My family had finally acknowledged their actions. They were suffering appropriate consequences while working toward growth, and I was free to continue building my life without their shadow darkening my door. The redemption they sought would have to come from within themselves. I'd given them enough. My redemption came from helping others escape similar situations, from building instead of enabling, from choosing myself. After years of sacrificing for those who'd only valued the sacrifice, not the person making it. 1 year after being called a burden, I'd become a blessing to many. That transformation belonged to me alone, earned through pain they'd caused, but couldn't claim credit for resolving. Some stories didn't need traditional reconciliation to find resolution. Sometimes the best ending was learning to write separate chapters. The coffee shop in neutral territory buzzed with Saturday afternoon energy. I'd chosen it carefully. Public enough for safety, noisy enough to discourage dramatic scenes, far from both my new life and their current struggles. 2 years had passed since that devastating dinner, 6 months since their letter of acknowledgement. Today, we would attempt conversation. Dr. Martinez had helped me prepare boundaries and exit strategies. Jessica waited in her car outside, ready to extract me if needed. Every precaution felt necessary when reopening doors I'd slammed shut for survival. They arrived together but changed. Dad's hair had gone completely gray, his posture humble rather than commanding. Mom moved slowly, work having aged her body into matching her years. Marcus carried himself quietly, the gaming swagger replaced by earned exhaustion. Sarah looked smallest of all designer facades stripped away to reveal someone almost genuine. "Thank you for agreeing to this." Dad began formally, then caught himself. "No, that's wrong. Thank you for giving us more grace than we deserve." We ordered coffee. They insisted on paying with pooled dollar bills that reminded me of my own lean years. The reversal felt surreal but necessary. They needed to give something, however small. "We'd like to show you something," Mom said, pulling out a worn folder. "Not to impress you, just to demonstrate." Inside were pay stubs, therapy appointment cards, completion certificates from job training programs, and volunteer schedules, evidence of lives slowly rebuilding through actual effort. Marcus showed his community college enrollment forms, pursuing IT certification. Sarah displayed her addiction counseling volunteer schedule, helping others escape social media's toxic validation cycle. "I work 2 jobs now," Dad said simply. "Security and warehouse, 60 hours a week. I understand now what you did for us, the exhaustion you carried while we complained about our comfort." "The grocery store promoted me to shift supervisor," Mom added. "Minimum wage plus 50 cents. I budget every penny, now amazed how you stretch money to cover our excess." They weren't seeking sympathy, just stating facts. The family who'd once demanded constant praise now shared their struggles, matter-of-factly achievement, measured in survival rather than status. "Why did you want to meet?" I asked directly. "Your letter said you didn't expect reconciliation." "We don't," Sarah assured quickly. "We wanted to apologize in person, to show you we're doing the work, not just saying pretty words." "And to ask one thing," Marcus added nervously. "Not money, never money. Just, would you tell us about your life? We see the center's success online, but we don't know about you. Are you happy? Are you okay?" The question hung between us. They'd forfeited the right to my personal information through their cruelty. But something in their genuine concern, divorced from any benefit to themselves, made me consider sharing carefully edited truths. "I'm in therapy," I began, "learning to recognize my worth beyond what I can provide. I have good days and bad days, trust issues, boundary struggles, but yes, I'm happy, happier than I ever was, carrying burdens that weren't mine." "We were those burdens," Dad stated, not asking. "We made you responsible for our lives while mocking you for it." "Yes." The simple confirmation made them flinch, but not deflect. They'd learned to sit with uncomfortable truths rather than rewrite them. "I date now." I continued, surprising myself with the disclosure. "Someone who pays their own bills and appreciates my success instead of resenting it. We take turns treating each other. It's balanced." Mom's eyes filled with tears she didn't let fall. Good, that's good. You deserve someone who sees your worth. The center helps dozens of young people escape what I experienced, I added. Some from families worse than ours, some eerily similar. Every success story heals something in me. We know, Sarah said softly. We've donated anonymously. Small amounts what we can spare. Not for recognition, just penance maybe, supporting your work since we can't undo our harm. This surprised me. Patterson hadn't mentioned anonymous donations, though I'd wondered about the consistent small gifts that arrived monthly. Tell us about your therapy, I asked, reversing the spotlight. Real details, not pretty words. They exchanged glances. Then Dad began. Gambling addiction recovery. 18 months without a bet, including lottery tickets. I've apologized to everyone I scammed, offering payment plans where possible. Most won't take my calls, which I understand. Codependency therapy for me, Mom continued. Learning how enmeshment differs from love. How I used you as my emotional and financial crutch while calling it family closeness. Dr. Kim says I have work ahead, but I'm committed. Gaming addiction plus failure to launch syndrome, Marcus admitted. Turns out, living in fantasy worlds stunts actual growth. Who knew I'm learning life skills at 31 that you mastered as a teenager? Narcissistic personality disorder with social media addiction, Sarah finished. The hardest part was admitting the diagnosis fit, that my entire identity was performance for strangers' validation while destroying real relationships. Each confession came without expectation of forgiveness, simply facts about their journey. The family who'd once blamed everyone else now owned their specific failures. Growth looked exhausting on them, but genuine. I have questions, I said. Hard ones. Are you prepared for that? They nodded collectively. Did you ever love me or just what I provided? The silence stretched painfully before Mom answered. We loved you like people love their furniture, appreciating its function without seeing its value. That's not real love. We're learning what real love means now. Why was I different? Why did I become the family ATM while everyone else got to be human? Dad rubbed his face. You were competent, responsible, strong. We mistook those qualities for not needing support. The more you succeeded, the more we felt entitled to that success. It's shameful logic, but honest. Would you have ever stopped if I hadn't left? No, Sarah said firmly. We'd have drained you dry, then blamed you for having nothing left to give. Your leaving saved us from becoming complete monsters instead of just partial ones. Do you actually like who I am or just miss what I did for you? Marcus met my eyes. I don't know who you are anymore, but I like who I see from afar. Someone helping kids, building community, choosing yourself. That person seems amazing. The sister I ignored while gaming seems like she was probably amazing too. I was just too selfish to notice. Each answer hurt and healed simultaneously. Truth without sugarcoating acknowledgement, without manipulation. The conversation I'd needed but never thought possible. 2 hours passed, coffee grew cold, and we reached the natural end. They didn't ask for another meeting phone numbers or any commitment. The growth seemed real, but requiring distance to continue. Before we go, Dad said, pulling out an envelope, this isn't manipulation, just information. We've been saving to repay what we stole. It's nowhere near the full amount, but we wanted you to see we're trying. Inside was a cashier's check for $800 and a detailed ledger of their debts to me. Not asking me to accept it, just showing accountability. Donate it to the center, I said, pushing it back. For the financial literacy program, consider it educational funding for others to avoid our dynamic. They nodded, understanding the boundary. Money between us would always be tainted by history. As we prepared to part, Mom asked, if we continue growing, might you update us occasionally? Not reconciliation, just knowing you're okay. Write me a letter each year on this date. I decided. Tell me about your growth, your struggles, your reality. I'll decide each time if I want to respond or meet. No expectations, no pressure, just possibility. That's more than we deserve, Sarah said. Thank you. We left separately, them together, but walking rather than driving. Another economy measure. I watched them go, 4 people slowly becoming who they should have been all along. Too late for us, but perhaps not too late for them. Jessica hugged me in her car while I processed. How do you feel? Sad, relieved, hopeful they're doing the work, but the damage is done. We can't be family again, but maybe we can be humans who once shared history and learned from it. That's beautiful and heartbreaking, she said. Yeah, I agreed, but better than the alternative of continued toxicity or false reconciliation. That night, I updated Dr. Martinez on the meeting. She praised my boundaries while acknowledging the grief of loving people who'd harmed me. Complex emotions deserved space without requiring action. My phone showed a text from an unknown number. Marcus, thank you for today. We'll respect your boundaries. The donation will go to the center tomorrow. Be well, sister. I didn't respond but saved the number. Not for regular contact, but for emergencies I hoped would never come. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt, but perhaps we could wave from opposite shores. The cautious reconciliation wasn't a Hollywood ending. No tearful embraces or instant forgiveness. Just broken people acknowledging harm while building separate futures. The family I deserved continued growing without me, while I continued healing without them. And maybe that was the most honest reconciliation possible, accepting what was while releasing what could never be. The autumn sun cast golden light through the Sterling Educational Center as we prepared for our biggest event yet, the first annual Phoenix Gala celebrating students who'd overcome family adversity to pursue their dreams. 3 years had passed since that dinner destroyed my old life and inadvertently created something beautiful from its ashes. Wanda, the catering team, needs your final approval on setup. Chen Lu informed me, clipboard in hand, but smile warm. She'd been promoted to assistant director, her own escape story making her perfect for understanding our students' needs. I surveyed the transformed main hall. Round tables dressed in burgundy and gold centerpieces featuring paper phoenixes, crafted by our art therapy students. The stage where 6 scholarship recipients would share their stories of transformation. Every detail reflected journeys from burden to blessing. It's perfect. I told the catering team, recognizing several faces from grandmother's old company. They'd offered a steep discount upon learning the event's purpose, another unexpected connection to my past, creating present beauty. My phone buzzed with a text from David, my partner of 18 months. Board meeting ended early, bringing extra hands to help set up. Your work family is about to meet your actual family me. Prepare for terrible dad jokes. His lightness still surprised me. After years of heavy emotional labor, being with someone who carried his own weight while making life lighter felt revolutionary. He understood my boundaries around family supporting without pushing for reconciliation beyond my comfort. Boss, the news crew wants to interview you before guests arrive. Marcus, not my brother but our development coordinator, informed me. The name coincidence had felt cosmic when I hired him, like reclaiming something painful for positive purpose. The reporter asked familiar questions about the center's mission, but one caught me off guard. Your story of family financial abuse has resonated with thousands. Do you ever hear from your family about the positive impact your experience has created? We maintain minimal contact, I answered carefully. They're on their own journey of growth, which I respect from a distance. My focus remains on helping young people currently trapped in similar dynamics. Truth without bitterness, boundaries without cruelty. The language of healing I'd learned through years of therapy and practice. As guests began arriving, I recognized faces from across our community. Business leaders who'd become donors, former students now thriving in careers, therapists who'd referred clients, and journalists who'd helped share our message. The village that raised phoenixes from ashes. Wanda Sterling. A tentative voice stopped me. Sarah Rodriguez, one of our first scholarship recipients, stood with an older couple. These are my parents. They wanted to thank you. Her mother grabbed my hands, tears flowing. Our daughter was lost to us. The drugs, the anger. We didn't know how to help. Your program saved her life, saved our family. Sarah saved herself, I corrected gently. We just provided tools and support. Your daughter's strength did the rest. These moments filled my cup in ways my biological family never had. Chosen connections through service rather than forced bonds through blood. The evening program began with Jessica as MC, her natural warmth setting the perfect tone. 3 years ago, my best friend called me crying from a hotel room. Her family had just told her she was a burden they wanted to live without. Tonight we celebrate how one woman's pain became purpose for hundreds. The scholarship recipients took turns sharing their stories. Maria now pre-med at Johns Hopkins. Anthony pursuing social work after escaping gang expectations. Destiny studying education to break generational cycles. Each narrative echoed familiar themes while maintaining unique details. Family dysfunction wore many masks but left similar scars. During my keynote, I spoke truths that still felt vulnerable. We call this the Phoenix Gala because mythical birds that burst into flames and resurrect from ashes capture our students' journeys. But phoenixes burn alone. Humans need community to rise. That's what we build here. Chosen family for those whose blood relatives forgot that love means support, not servitude. Applause thundered, but I noticed movement by the entrance. For a heart-stopping moment, I thought my family had appeared. Instead, Helen's sister Margaret entered quietly, finding a seat in the back. We'd spoken twice since the reconciliation meeting, her own guilt about enabling her sister's behavior, leading to substantial anonymous donations. The evening's highlight came when presenting our new initiative, Sterling House, a transitional living program for students escaping abusive homes. The renovated Victorian would provide safe housing while they pursued education, recreating family dynamics based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. No one living at Sterling House will ever be called a burden, I promised. They'll be called scholars, friends, chosen family. They'll learn that needing help doesn't diminish worth and that giving help doesn't entitle control. David found me during the reception wrapping an arm around my waist. You've built something incredible from something terrible. I'm constantly amazed by your strength. Strength born from necessity, I replied, leaning into his warmth, though I prefer this version to the one that just endured. Ms. Sterling. A young woman approached nervously. I'm starting the program next month. My family situation is complicated. Do you think someone like me can really make it? I recognized the fear in her eyes, the same terror I'd felt driving away that midnight. What's your name? Amber. Amber, 3 years ago, I slept in my car because my family made me homeless for refusing to keep paying their bills. Tonight I run a center that's helped over 200 students escape similar situations. You're not wondering if you can make it. You're already making it by choosing yourself. She nodded, tears threatening. Chen Lu appeared smoothly guiding Amber toward other students who'd share encouragement and practical advice, the network working as designed, lifting each other rather than dragging down. As the evening wound down, I stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights. My phone showed one new message from the family group I'd silently observed but never participated in. Mom, saw the gala coverage on the news. You looked beautiful. The center's work is amazing. We're proud of who you've become without us. Thank you for showing that burdens can become blessings. We continue working on ourselves. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. Growth on parallel tracks, occasionally visible to each other, but no longer intersecting. Margaret approached quietly. Thank you for inviting me. Seeing this helps me understand what Helen and the others destroyed. I'm ashamed I didn't intervene sooner. You couldn't have changed anything, I assured her. They needed to hit bottom to begin climbing up. Sometimes the kindest thing is letting people face consequences. Still, I wish. We all have wishes about the past. Building better futures matters more. David joined us naturally, including Margaret, in conversation about the center's expansion plans. His easy social grace smoothed potentially awkward moments, another gift I'd never expected in a partner. The cleanup crew worked efficiently, transforming our magical evening back into tomorrow's functional space, but the energy lingered, hope generated by gathering survivors who'd refused to remain victims. "Tired?" David asked as I locked my office. "Good tired, fulfilled tired, not the bone-deep exhaustion of carrying ungrateful people. That's my favorite kind of tired on you, the kind that comes from building rather than enduring." We drove home through quiet streets, passing the neighborhood where I'd grown up. The house stood dark, sold 2 years ago when Dad's fraud charges finally processed. My family lives separately now, each rebuilding in small apartments while working multiple jobs. Poetic justice or just consequences. The universe deciding fair payment for years of exploitation. "Do you ever regret the distance from them?" David asked gently. "I regret that distance became necessary, but not the distance itself. Some relationships are too damaged to repair without destroying yourself in the process. I chose myself, finally, and built something beautiful from that choice." We all did. Every student, volunteer, donor, and staff member. Beauty from ashes, purpose from pain. The most worthwhile construction project I've ever undertaken. As we pulled into my driveway, mine earned through my own efforts, I thought about tomorrow's plans. New student orientations, donor meetings, program development, and 1,000 small tasks that built futures from broken pasts. 3 years ago, my family called me a burden and cast me out. Today, hundreds called me hope and invited me in. The reversal felt less like revenge and more like redemption. Not just mine, but everyone's who'd been labeled burden for the crime of existing authentically. The phoenix had risen indeed, but more importantly, she'd built a nest where other phoenixes could rise too. That multiplication of transformation made every past pain worthwhile. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new students, new opportunities to convert wounds into wisdom. But tonight I rested in the satisfaction of building something lasting, from something lost. The burden I'd been accused of being had become the blessing I'd chosen to embody. And that made all the difference. The private dining room at Chez Laurent hummed with nervous energy as my family waited for me to arrive. 5 years had passed since that cruel dinner that shattered everything, 3 years since we began our careful, distant dance of accountability and growth. Tonight, at their request and my cautious agreement, we would share a meal once more. I paused outside the door, David's hand warm on my back. "You sure about this? We can leave right now, no questions asked." "I'm sure. This needs to happen, whatever the outcome." Dr. Martinez and I had spent weeks preparing for this moment. Not for reconciliation necessarily, but for closure. The annual letters had shown consistent growth therapy progress and genuine change. Still sharing a meal with people who'd nearly destroyed me felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. They stood when I entered uncertainty, replacing the entitled confidence I remembered. 5 years of minimum wage reality had carved humility into their features. Dad's hands, once soft from avoiding labor, now bore calluses from honest work. Mom's designer clothes had given way to department store simplicity that somehow made her look more authentic. Marcus wore his community college graduation pin proudly, the first sterling to earn rather than expect. Sarah's appearance shocked most her influencer polish, replaced by a counselor's quiet confidence, the Instagram perfect smile traded for something genuine. "Thank you for coming," Dad began, then stopped. "No, that's presumptuous. Thank you for considering us worth your time." We sat at a round table, their choice to avoid the hierarchy of head and foot positions. Every detail showed thought consideration of dynamics they'd once weaponized against me. "Before we begin," Mom said quietly, "we want to show you something." They each pulled out folders not unlike the evidence I'd once gathered of their exploitation. Inside were documents that told different stories, pay stubs showing 5 years of steady employment, therapy session notes redacted, but verified community service hours, restitution payments to Dad's fraud victims, and most surprisingly, letters from people they'd helped. I counsel gaming addicts now, Marcus explained, showing certifications. Turns out, lived experience matters more than degrees sometimes. I've helped 12 young men recognize how virtual achievements were replacing real life. One mother wrote to thank me. I cried for hours understanding how you must have felt watching me waste my potential. Sarah slid her folder across. Addiction counseling specializing in social media dependency. Who better than someone who destroyed her life chasing digital validation? I work with teenage girls, mostly helping them understand their worth isn't measured in likes or followers. The irony isn't lost on me. Mom's contributions focused on financial literacy for seniors. I teach budgeting at the community center, how to stretch fixed incomes, avoid manipulation by family members, recognize financial abuse. Everything I failed to practice, I now preach with hard-earned authority. Dad's stack was thickest. Security work pays bills, but fraud prevention consulting has become my calling. I speak at senior centers about scam recognition, help small businesses identify internal theft work with the DA's office on white-collar crime education. Turns out, understanding criminal thinking from inside makes me valuable for prevention. I studied each document carefully, David reading alongside me. These weren't performances for my benefit, but evidence of sustained change. 5 years of consistent growth, helping others avoid the paths they'd walked. Why tonight? I asked. Your last letter didn't mention wanting to meet. Because we finally have something to offer besides apologies, Sarah said. Not to you. We know that bridge is burned. But to others like you. We want to share our story. Publicly. Take full accountability. Maybe prevent other families from destroying themselves like we did. She pulled out a final document, a contract with a documentary filmmaker known for ethical storytelling about family trauma. We've agreed to participate in a film about financial abuse within families. Complete honesty about what we did, how you survived, and what we've learned. All proceeds go to your center. My hands stilled. You want to publicly admit to financially abusing me? We want to publicly celebrate the daughter who refused to remain our victim, Dad corrected, to show other families that calling someone a burden for being responsible is abuse, not love, that expecting endless sacrifice while giving nothing is theft, not family values. The filmmaker wants your participation but will proceed without it if you prefer, Mom added quickly. Your boundaries matter more than our redemption narrative. I looked at these 4 people who'd caused such damage, seeing something I'd never thought possible. Genuine understanding of their harm and commitment to preventing others from repeating it. They weren't seeking forgiveness or restoration, just opportunity to transform their cruelty into cautionary tales. I'll consider it, I said finally. Send me the filmmaker's information. If I agree it's under my terms with my editorial input. Of course, they agreed unanimously. The waiter brought menus and we ordered with careful attention to price. Them because money remained tight, me because old habits died hard. The meal that destroyed us 5 years ago had been lavish. This one was modest, honest. Tell us about your life, Marcus requested. Not details you're uncomfortable sharing, just, are you happy? I'm engaged. I revealed David's hand, finding mine under the table. To someone who considers my success a joy to celebrate, not a resource to exploit. We're building a life of equal partnership. Children, Mom asked tentatively. Someday, when we're ready. They'll grow up knowing their worth isn't measured by what they provide, but who they are. Good, she whispered. That's good. The conversation continued carefully, them sharing struggles and victories, me offering glimpses of life beyond survival mode. They worked multiple jobs still, but found meaning in the struggle. I ran multiple programs, but found joy in the service. Parallel growth on different trajectories. We know we'll never be family again, Sarah said as dinner concluded. But we hope someday you'll see us as humans who learned from our inhumanity, who changed because you showed us consequences have weight. I see you as people doing the work, I replied honestly. That's significant even if it doesn't erase the past. Dad signaled for the check, counting out careful bills from a worn wallet. The gesture meant more than any grand display. They were paying for a meal with money earned, honestly sharing what little they had rather than taking what they hadn't earned. As we prepared to leave, Mom made one last request. Could we possibly see the center? Not go inside, just see what you built from what we broke. I considered, then nodded. From outside, briefly. We drove in separate cars to the Sterling Educational Center, lit beautifully for evening classes. Students moved between buildings carrying dreams bigger than their circumstances. The Phoenix house gleamed next-door windows, warm with chosen family-sharing meals they'd cooked together. "It's magnificent," Dad breathed. "You built this." We built this. Every person who refused to be a burden, every donor who understood the mission, every volunteer who gave time, every student who chose courage. I just provided the starting point. "From our cruelty," Sarah stated, not asking. "From my freedom," I corrected. "Your cruelty was the push. My choice was the power." They stood quietly absorbing the weight of what their actions had inadvertently catalyzed. 4 people who'd tried to diminish me, watching hundreds rise because I'd refused to stay small. "Thank you," Marcus said simply, "for showing us, for surviving us, for becoming who you are despite us." "Because of us," Mom added with painful honesty. "Your strength came from somewhere. We just forced you to find it through opposition instead of support." I didn't correct her interpretation. Some truths were theirs to carry. We parted in the parking lot without promises or plans. The documentary would proceed if I approved their story becoming teaching tool rather than hidden shame. They would continue their work, staying accountable to growth. I would continue mine, building futures from broken pasts. "How do you feel?" David asked as we drove home. "Complete," I said, after consideration. "Not healed, some wounds leave scars. Not reconciled, some bridges can't be rebuilt. But complete. The circle that opened with cruelty has closed with understanding." "They've really changed," he observed. "They have. Too late for us, but not too late for them. And that's its own form of justice." My phone buzzed with a message from Chen Liu. "Documentary team wants to film testimonials from scholarship recipients next week. Should I coordinate?" "Yes," I typed back. "Their story needs telling too." Because that was the fullest circle. My family's cruelty creating a center that helped hundreds escape similar cruelty. Their public acknowledgement would validate every person labeled burden for expecting basic respect. Their consequences would warn every family considering exploitation over support. As I prepared for bed in the home I'd earned with the partner I'd chosen, living the life I'd built, I thought about that dinner 5 years ago. Sarah declaring me a burden, Dad smiling over wine, Mom nodding agreement, Marcus smirking at his phone, the death of one life that birthed a better one. Tomorrow the filmmaker would call. I'd agree to participate, controlling the narrative that had once controlled me. My family would face public judgment for their actions, accepting it as just payment for growth. Students would continue arriving at our center, transforming from burdens to blessings through community that understood their journey. But tonight I simply existed in the satisfaction of survival, transformed into success. The burden they'd accused me of being had become exactly what they'd feared, someone who refused to carry them, and in that refusal I'd found the strength to carry hundreds of others toward freedom. The Phoenix hadn't just risen. She'd built an entire sanctuary for other phoenixes to rise. My family's cruelty had become my community's catalyst. Their attempt to diminish me had multiplied my impact beyond their wildest fears. And that was the greatest justice of all. Not revenge, but redemption, not just for me, but for everyone who'd been called burden for the crime of having boundaries. The story that began with, "You are a burden, we want to live without you," ended with hundreds declaring, "We are not burdens, we are blessings." And we were. Oh, how we were. As I close this chapter of my story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like a burden for simply expecting basic respect and reciprocity in your relationships? Have family members or friends made you feel guilty for having boundaries or taking care of yourself? You are not alone. Your worth isn't measured by what you provide to others, but by your inherent value as a human being deserving of love and respect. If this story resonated with you, please consider commenting below with your own experiences. Like this video if you believe that no one should be called a burden for refusing to enable others. Subscribe to hear more stories of triumph over family adversity, and share this with someone who needs to hear that they're not a burden. They're a blessing waiting to bloom. Thank you for joining me on this journey from burden to blessing. May you find the courage to choose yourself, the strength to maintain boundaries, and the joy of building a life where you're valued for who you are, not what you provide. Remember, the people who call you a burden for having boundaries are telling you exactly who they are. Believe them, and then believe in yourself enough to walk away. Until next time, this is Wanda reminding you that rising from the ashes isn't just possible, it's powerful.